the radical, fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to Yaron Brook Show on this, what is it? It's Thursday, February 9th. I hope everybody is having a fantastic week so far. All right, so we're going to jump in with a quick news roundup for the day, for the morning. We will start with an ongoing kind of, I didn't list this, but an ongoing kind of keeping an eye on the DeSantis-Trump battle. Has it started yet? I don't know if DeSantis is engaged yet, but certainly they were sniping from the Trump quarter. And it's fascinating and it's fun to watch because the Republican Party kind of is torn and doesn't quite know what to do. And Trump supporters from the past don't know what to do with Trump. So Trump posted on his Truth Network, he posted a photo of Ron DeSantis, drinking with women who appear younger than him and are allegedly his students. One of the photos, he included a caption saying, quote, "Here is Ron DeSanctimonious grooming high school girls with alcohol as a teacher." In another post, Trump uses the same photo and he says, quote, "Having drinks with underage girls and cuddling with them certainly looks pretty gross." Now, this is Trump. So he's been doing this since 2015. But before, when he attacked Carly Fiorina and he attacked Ted Cruz, and he said he would, and he told lies about them, and he said he would dredge up all kind of nonsense. Everybody defended Trump. Nobody attacked him. Nobody, because he was the darling. But now they don't know what to do because a lot of people in the Republican Party, wanted to defend DeSantis, but they don't want to. They love Trump, so. So some of them, this is Brian York from the Washington Examiner, who's a real Trumpist, is lamenting that Trump is going lower and lower, as if this hasn't been the case for 6-7 years now. Or former editor for American Greatness, who is also a huge Trumpist and been Trumpist forever, Pedro Gonzalez, is now under the impression that Trump is, quote, unserious and acting based on his insecurities. When he called Carly Fiorina, when he made, and he went after Cruz and he went after all of those people, he wasn't unserious and acting based on his insecurities, but now he is because he's attacking your guy. And of course, DeSantis, when asked about this, his comment was, and this also says it all, right? He says, "I don't spend my time trying to smear other Republicans." Fine if you want to smear Democrats, if you want to smear leftists, if you want to smear other people, but Republicans, don't smear Republicans. It's our team, it's our tribe. We don't smear people in our tribe. Smearing is fine, just don't smear people in our tribe. Anyway, this is going to be fun to watch. And it's going to be fun to see how all these Trump supporters and all the America Greatness crowd, MAGA crowd, kind of figure this out and figure out who they're going to support, Trump or DeSantis, and then how they're going to do it without offending the other. Anyway. We're going to be watching it, and we're going to let you know as Trump tweets or truths his way into attacking your favorite, or many of your favorite, DeSantis. Talking about DeSantis, there is an exciting bill coming up in the Republican-dominated legislature in Florida. This is being put forward in the Florida House of Representatives. And it basically is a bill that would move Florida significantly closer to embracing, school choice for everyone, to embracing what's sometimes called the voucher for all, or what looks like might actually be even better than vouchers, which is an educational saving account for all. It's not clear exactly what the bill, I'm trying to do research and figure out exactly what's in the bill, and I'll keep you updated as this goes through the House in Florida. But it is super exciting. I mean, maybe the best thing Republicans are doing anyway, or the best thing Republicans are doing, period, is that in state legislatures around the country, and there's like a dozen of them right now, they're passing various versions of education saving accounts, vouchers, school choice kind of initiatives. And probably the most, as you know, I think the most important of those and the most comprehensive of those, and the one that I think would benefit parents and children the most, and education the most, is the education saving account. Well, it looks like, if I understand what I'm reading, that that's the direction that Florida is moving towards. Florida already has education saving accounts. It has like 5 different school choice programs, but they are all limited in terms of which students can apply. It's usually for students who have learning disabilities. Again, altruism guides us to offer freedom and choice to the disabled, but not to the able. So we hold back certainly hold back the able and the exceptional. What this bill is supposed to do is really expand this beyond just subgroups that might have benefited from school choice in Florida in the past. Super exciting. It's being pushed by House Speaker Paul Renier, something like that, it's a plan that's a lot of, I think, conservative groups are supporting this, including conservative groups that are focused on education. So I think generally this is fantastic. Anything we can do to get rid of government control over education is a good thing. But guess who's not super enthusiastic about this bill? Guess who is not yet ready to support the bill, to give it a thumbs up and to lobby for it and to push it through? It is DeSantis. DeSantis is not quite sure yet. We'll see what happens, but he's not convinced yet that this is a bill worth supporting. He's not convinced yet that school choice is the way to go. Why? I told you why before. Conservatives in power want to be able to guide curriculum. They want to be able to determine what gets taught in schools. To do that, they need government schools. To truly liberate education, to truly privatize education, to truly get the government out of education, which is what school choice would actually happen, would actually provide, would actually enable, is dangerous for them, because it means that schools will not be under their control, under their control. So he is, it's not an issue of him wanting something even more. He's not sure he wants to go in the direction of actual school choice, of actual saving accounts. And indeed, the budget that he has proposed is not assuming this bill passed. That is, the budget he has proposed does not assume an increase in the amount. This would require the state actually takes the tax money and give it to parents rather than to schools, which means a rejuggling of state budgets. This does not include, his latest budget does not include anything about this. So disappointing. Let's hope he changes his mind. Let's hope that this is just a temporary tactical approach, but that he'll actually get on board with this. But if he doesn't, I'm already not a big DeSantis fan, but if he doesn't support this, then he is the enemy, right? That's it. What is the point of having a conservative and a Republican if they just want more control over schools and they don't want to actually liberate schools? So, education saving accounts are the way to go. Adams says, and then fade them out over 10 years. Yeah, I mean, that would be ideal, but that's never going to happen. But what would happen with educational saving accounts is you actually get. I'm okay with government funding private education because it will get the government out of education, which I consider a greater evil than taxation and redistribution. A greater evil than taxation and redistribution is government control of education. So we'll deal with redistribution. We'll deal with the welfare state down the road. For now, let's get education saving accounts. All right, let's see. No, I mean, the beauty of education saving accounts, and I think this is true of the Florida plan, is you will be able to use the money for any school, online education. You can use the money for tutors, after school, homeschooling. So you can use the money for test preparation, for signing up to do the big test for college. You can use the money for a variety. The state does not, this is the difference with vouchers. The state is not telling you how to use it. Now, theoretically, you could say this doesn't qualify, that doesn't qualify, but at least where education saving accounts have been used, the state has basically given it to parents and said, as long as you use it on education, very broadly defined, which is the beauty of these programs, we're not going to intervene. And that creates the resources, the money, the opportunity for the creation of competitive educational enterprise to compete for that money, parents to have the resources. And for middle class and above parents, this is great because they get their tax money back and they're not subsidizing somebody else's education, particularly parents who send their kids to private school anyway. And for poor parents who the explanation is they can't afford private education. Well, now they can afford it. And now you can create a competitive market, which will ultimately drive prices down. And at some point down the road, as we fight the welfare state, these can be phased out, and it's easy to do, right? But first, you have to. The beauty of this is it'll prove that a private educational system is workable and at reasonable costs, right? All right. All right, reminder, you can ask questions. You can use the Super Chat to do so. We have a target for these morning shows of $250. Let's try to hit those targets. Those targets are important for the future and continuation of the show. So let's try to hit the targets. I appreciate the support that you guys provide. Let's see. Yeah, so Texas, state of Texas, the wonderful state of Texas, is suing the Biden administration. And the Health and Human Services Department and when was this? They have sued around the abortion pills, around the whole issue of the abortion pills, and the lawsuit. And I think it's this relates to the fact that the Biden administration told pharmacies that they are required to fill prescriptions, that if somebody comes with a prescription for an abortion pill, they're required to fill those prescriptions. Now, that's not the role of the government. The government shouldn't be doing that. But so they're requiring them, they're requiring pharmacies to do it. They're also requiring pharmacies to be able to ship. Once they get a prescription, they can ship abortion pills to whoever has the prescription, to women anyway. Well, Texas and a number of red states are objecting to this. They're saying, look, abortions are illegal, therefore selling abortion pills are illegal, and therefore selling these abortion pills in these states is an illegal activity. They have warned CVS and they have warned Walgreens and they have warned other pharmacies, you cannot do this. And now they filed a lawsuit against the Biden administration. The lawsuit is being filed. It was filed in Amarillo, Texas. A district court judge that was appointed by Trump. And there is a good chance that this judge could decide that the abortion pill should be banned. They should be stopped distributing them, that pharmacies should not respect the prescriptions. I mean, he has a lot of options. Now, of course, anything he does will be appealed, no matter how he rules on either side. But given his conservative background, given that he was involved in a conservative group, a nonprofit conservative group before he became a judge, that was a strong advocate for restricting abortion access, it is likely that this judge is going to, in one way or another, dramatically reduce access to abortion pills. Now, this shows the extent to which the abortion debate was never about viability. The abortion debate was never about the final trimester. The abortion debate was never about human life. The abortion debate was always about the first and maybe the beginning of the second trimester, when 97% of all abortions occur. The abortion debate was always about life begins at conception. The abortion debate was always about a religious, primitive, barbaric notion of human life, of what human life means, and of the rights of a woman. It was never about, the final trimester and viability. Never about that. This lays bare what these conservatives, what these, Republicans, I don't know how you want to call them, they have zero respect for human life. They are anti-life. They are anti-human life. They are certainly anti-female life. They might want to do documentaries about what is a woman, but then they want the woman to stay home and they want the woman to not have any choices. Certainly not reproductive choices. Certainly not about abortion. I mean, this is true barbarism. If a woman gets pregnant and wants to take a pill to eliminate that pregnancy, it's low cost, the fetus is clearly not viable, what the hell? This is nothing about the life of a child or about viability. This is about a clump of cells in the first few weeks when this pill is useful. This isn't a pill you take when the fetus is even approaching viability. It's horrific, disgusting. The whole abortion debate, is a negation of individual rights. A negation of individual rights. And it's a negation of a woman's individual rights, and by extension, it's a negation of the whole concept of individual rights. They'd rather protect a clump of cells than allow a woman to take a pill to make a choice about whether she wants to give birth or not. The woman is human. The woman is alive. The fetus, potentially, could be, will be, if left alone, maybe. So, it's good in a sense that it lays naked exactly what Republicans are about, and I wouldn't be surprised if Republicans, if they continue on this path, that Republicans in many of these states, including in some red states, start losing elections because Republican women vote against them. Of course, this shouldn't be a woman or man issue. This should be anybody who respects rights should be pro-abortion. Let's see. Catherine says, how would the government know if a pharmacy filled RX for an abortion pill? Isn't that a privacy protected by law? Probably not. I mean, the woman could probably complain, right? So again, I'm not saying that it's right for the government to force pharmacies to fill prescriptions, but I also think it's wrong for the government to prohibit the pharmacy, which is what Texas and other states want to do, from filling those prescriptions. So pharmacies should be free to decide whether they want to fill them or not. But this is a battle between states and the federal government, and the states want to prohibit a woman from buying a legal drug that is legal, that the FDA has made legal, and therefore should be accessible to anybody. And the idea that a pharmacy would not do it because a state decided to overrule the FDA and make it illegal, I mean, that is absurd and ridiculous. But the only way the government would know is if the woman complained, filed a claim against the pharmacy. All right, let's see. So yes, another big strike in my book, at least, against Republicans. And in the state of Texas, sadly, a state I love, but... All right, was reported this week that the U.S. has posted its largest trade deficit on record in 2022. So the trade deficit was $948 billion. It was close to $1 trillion of trade deficit. Well, what is fascinating, I think, about this is that this is in spite of the Trump tariffs, the Biden tariffs, the fact that Biden continued all of Trump tariffs. This is in spite of the protectionist measures of Trump and Biden. Maybe you could argue it's because of. It's up, 12%. You don't hear anybody complaining about this because all economists, basically all economists, almost all economists, know that this is an irrelevant number. It doesn't make any difference. It's a reflection of the fact that Americans consume a lot, particularly post-COVID, consumption has gone up. It is a reflection of the fact that foreigners like dollars and are quite happy to receive dollars in exchange for goods. So the reality is exports are up in the United States in 2022. Exports were at a record high, but imports were even higher. And it's a fact that Americans have been consuming a lot and consuming a lot of foreign goods. There's been a little shift, less in proportionally less importing from China, more importing from on a relative basis from Mexico, Canada. What's the third country? God, just slipped my mind. Anyway, from other countries, India. I think there's a significant increase in importing to the United States from India. This is a reflection of changing supply chains as people diversify and companies diversify away from total reliance on China and incorporating supply chains that travel more through Mexico and Canada, but also India and Vietnam. And my expectation is you'll see more from Malaysia and Indonesia, and maybe even South America, as there's more and more divestment out of China. So I thought it's an interesting number. One of the reasons we imported so much in 2022 is because the dollar was so strong, right? When the dollar value goes up relative to other currencies, then that means that products that you buy from those other countries are cheaper for you in dollar terms. Because ultimately you have to convert those dollars into the local currency, and your dollar is more stronger, so you can get more for the dollars you spend. So one of the reasons for rise in imports is our dollar went further. And while the dollar is significantly weaker than it was, I'd say, in the third and fourth quarter of last year, it's still historically quite strong. I expect imports to continue to be strong, maybe not as strong as they were last year because the dollar won't be quite as strong. But the dollar is strong because people want to hold dollars, because demand for dollars is high all over the world. And the fact is that countries are eager to sell us stuff in exchange for those pieces of paper called dollars. Now, this is a good thing, not a bad thing. This is, again, counter to the whole view of trade that Trump, I think, tried to advocate, which is trade deficits are bad. The Chinese are conning us because they're stealing our dollars which is just, I mean, that in itself, that attitude in itself should have disqualified him from being president. Unfortunately, while Biden and the Biden administration doesn't talk this nonsense, it acts as if it believes in this nonsense. You know, absolutely, this is, there's nothing wrong with trade deficits. You all have a trade deficit with the grocery store. You buy stuff from the grocery store and you leave your dollars there. Trade really, at the end of the day, is never between countries. It's between individuals. The U.S. doesn't really have a trade deficit with China or anybody else. You as an individual have a trade deficit with people you buy stuff from. American companies might have a trade deficit with Chinese companies. So the whole trade deficit discussion is bogus and you know, just basically, it's basically bad economics. Bad economics. By the way, just because we're talking about deficits, Russia announced a massive budget deficit. Budget deficits do matter, by the way. We in the United States, of course, have massive budget deficits that do matter. And that's because revenues are half of what they expected them to be, and expenditures are much higher than what they expected to be because of the war. So Chinese economy continues to struggle, and it will be in much worse shape as the war continues. No, I've no doubt about that. All right, let's say. All right. So as part of my vaccine conspiracy theory, you know, debunking, and as I've said, you can't debunk this stuff because it doesn't matter how much evidence you provide. You're not going to change anybody's mind. But I'm hoping that people who are not decided, or just most of you who hear this nonstop barrage of stuff about how vaccines are killing people, how vaccines are you know, responsible for the excess deaths in the United States and all over the world, and people are just dropping dead because of vaccines, of COVID vaccines, particularly mRNA COVID vaccines. This is some intellectual ammunition for you, just to provide you with some basis for confidence that this is not the case, without you having to do all the research and all the evidence gathering. I think most of you understand that the anti-vaccination thing is just a crazy conspiracy theory, and that there's certain people who have strong financial incentives to keep this going, and strong ideological incentives to keep this going. It's become a tribal thing, but there's no there. But let's delve into one more aspect of this. So one of the things circulating around on Twitter, and I've been tweeted this several times, is a table from from the what is the organization? This is the Society of Actuaries. It's the research institutes. So these are insurance actuaries. So part of the whole shtick of the anti-vaccine people is they don't believe the government data, so they want private data. So this is private data. This is in the insurance companies. So okay, so this reflects death, excess death based on the way insurance companies measure it. Of course, insurance companies have some motivation to do it because after all, they pay up. There's a real economic reason for them to get this right. So one of the things circulating is this table of excess mortality by age bands. And what that's showing is that in Q3 2021 and Q4 2021, and generally in 2021 as a year, there was a massive spike in excess deaths among Americans of age of 0 to 65. That is working age Americans who are, I think, universally acceptable, or not the most susceptible group to COVID. So their assumption is, not the actuaries actually don't make this assumption, but everybody else makes this assumption. The conspiracy theorists make this assumption that these people, because this is the period where everybody was being vaccinated, this is the 2021 starting in Q1, everybody was being vaccinated, including young people, that this is an indication. This is an indication that the vaccines are killing young people. And this has to do with myocarditis and pericarditis, primarily heart disease. People are dropping dead because of the vaccines. This is American data. This is the data we trust. This is the point. I have no problem with the data. The data is probably accurate. So it's interesting. Why do we have excess deaths? But again, if you want to make a big claim, it's vaccines killing them. You better have big evidence, big proof that this is the case. So I dug a little bit, not a lot. I'm not an expert on this. I am not a epidemiologist. I'm not an expert on diseases. I just know how to look at data a little bit, and I kind of know how to do research, I guess, or maybe I know how to use Google. I don't know. But I dug around a little bit. Anybody could do this, and one of the things I encourage you is if you're skeptical, go do the research. Go dig a little bit. Go find out. Okay, so in the same report where they argue, where the actuaries make the argument that excess deaths are very high among, really, most of this is between 25 and 55, right? This is and a lot of it, big numbers, like 35 to 44, right? Why are so many Americans in that age group, why did so many Americans in that age group die in the Q3 2021 and then to some extent also Q4 of 2021? And isn't it obvious that that's the vaccines? So I decided to, so I actually read the report from the actuaries. And there's a section called Section 6, Detailed Causes of Death. So I looked at that and said, okay, if we look at 2021, where do we see a real spike in excess deaths in 2021? So there is a small spike in excess deaths, not a very big one, a small spike in excess deaths in the all other categories. Ooh, that's ominous. All other, maybe that includes the vaccines, who knows? But vaccines don't usually appear as a cause of death. What actually appears on other cause of death. What the argument is, the vaccines cause cardio, heart disease, some kind of heart disease that causes excess deaths in young people. So you look at cardiovascular. Wow, cardiovascular, basically, 2021 is exactly the same, a little less than 2020, a little more than 2019, about the same as 2018 and 2017 in terms of excess deaths. Actually, very close to zero excess deaths from any kind of cardiovascular disease in 2021. They don't break this down by quarter, so I'm just using the annual. Cancer, 2021, there was a negative excess deaths. Generally, during COVID, fewer people died of cancer. One of the great mysteries out there. Flu, a lot fewer people died from flu. Negative excess deaths from flu. But then you get to some interesting data. Accidents. Whoa. 2021 saw a significant rise in accidents. Not huge. Maybe 5-10% increase excess deaths caused from accidents. About 10% caused by motor vehicle accidents. Now guess who's likely to die in motor vehicle accidents? 65-year-olds or 25-year-olds? I think 25-year-olds. So maybe it's accidents. That's one cause. Suicides, flat, nothing happening there. Liver disease is way up. Liver disease is way up. The hypothesis there is people during COVID drank more. Liver disease associated with alcoholism, and people are dying more from diseases associated with alcohol. Okay, so alcoholism might be a cause of excess deaths in 2021. Drinking. And by the way, excess deaths from alcoholism, I've seen other studies that show that is primarily a disease of people who are in working age, 35 to 55. Exactly where the excess deaths was in Q3 of 2021. Diabetes, a little bit of excess death, not much, but the vaccines cause diabetes, I doubt it. And then you get the big one. So what category? So excess death in 21 of 150%. So 150%. So 50% more deaths than expected. 50% more deaths than expected. So if you expected 100 deaths, you got 150. What category do you think did that in 2021? Which you could find on the internet. And we know this from other studies. Good one, Bree got it direct. Drug overdose. Drug overdose. Who overdoses on drugs? Not 65-year-olds. It's a disease primarily of 25 to 55-year-olds. And then what other category do you think had increased excess deaths? Not quite 150%, but almost 120%. Homicide. Murder. Guess who's killed in murders? Young people. So when you actually dig in the data, the reality is suicide is flat. The reality is that young people died from more homicides, more drug overdoses, more motor vehicle accidents. I don't know if that explains everything that happened in Q3 of 2021. I don't think anybody really does. But to jump to the conclusion that it's vaccines is bizarre. But then we have another piece of evidence that maybe will help alleviate your concerns about vaccines. So this is a table from a study that basically shows excess deaths, excess mortality from June of 2021 to March of 2022 by country. So this is the period in which a significant number of people were already vaccinated, right, or were getting vaccinated. This is the period in which all of these conspiracy theories are complaining that there's this massive increase in excess deaths because of the vaccines. So we take New Zealand, where there's massive lockdowns, excess death is almost non-existent, and they had a 75% vaccination rate. So why didn't more people die in New Zealand if they had 75% vaccination rate? Sweden had a 70% vaccination rate and very little excess deaths. Right? And they were open, and most excess deaths attributable there to COVID. You could go through Belgium at 76%. You'd expect massive amounts of excess deaths from the vaccines if the vaccine was causing it. Nope, not that much. Look at the United States. Go down the list and look for the United States. Spain, by the way, had 80% vaccination rates, the highest in this table. And they had, some excess deaths, but not a lot, not more than you'd expect from COVID. Now go down and look at the United States. The first appearance of the United States is the 10 most vaccinated U.S. states with 73% vaccination rate. They have a high excess deaths, and we can talk about why. I would argue that most of that is a consequence of, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Most of that is a consequence of obesity in the U.S. Obesity is a contributing factor for dying from COVID. So you got a relatively high 65.1. But look at the 10 least vaccinated states at the bottom of the table, 193. So in the 10 least vaccinated states, 3 times more people died in terms of excess deaths than did in the 10 most vaccinated states. This should be it. This should be enough. Really. All right, that is it. We've got some Super Chat questions, and I'm hoping that this at least causes you to think twice about this whole vaccine killing people nonsense. And the people who push it. All right, we are way off on achieving our goal. I don't know. We've got 100 people watching. If everybody put in $2, we'd achieve the goal. I hate to have to say it every time. I wish there was more of a systematic approach to getting to our target faster and without me bugging you as much. Anyway, Shazbot says, the way to do that is to become more monthly contributors, and then if the monthly contributors get to some point where we're fully funded, then I don't have to bug you about super chats. But as it is, Shazbat says, if one has no children, can one use the education saving accounts to buy a car? No. No, you cannot. So you take the money, you move the money into your own account, and you pay taxes on it. So the education saving account is a mechanism by which you don't pay taxes on money you spend on education. You know, again, in an ideal world, we wouldn't have to do that. Everything would just be private, but we don't live in an ideal world. So if we can find ways to take what the government spends anyway, but allocate it in a way that encourages private education versus public education, I think we should do it. Apollo Zeus asks, people who are radicals for the truth versus radicals for objectivism versus radicals for Ayn Rand. Well, I think properly understood, all of those are the same. That if you understand what radicals for Ayn Rand is and radicals for objectivism is ultimately what Ayn Rand was, a pursuer of truth, and what objectivism is a philosophy that helps you achieve the truth or discover the truth, or gives you the tools to discover the truth. But I like radicals for truth because objectivism is the philosophy of Ayn Rand. Radicals for Ayn Rand seems like we're radicals for her personally. Objectivism is, in a sense, closed in a sense that it is the name of the philosophy as articulated by Ayn Rand, so it is not expanding, and yet truth is expanding. So I like radicals for truth, and I think objectivists, properly understood, objectivists are radicals for truth. That's what objectivists are. RDF, thank you, really appreciate it. Darlene, thank you, really appreciate the support. Friend Harper, thank you. Wes, thank you. Adam, thank you. And Volta, thank you. Those are all people who used the sticker to support the show without actually asking a question. And again, if everybody did $2, we would easily achieve our goal pretty much every show. Daniel, little embarrassed to admit I finally read Dim for the first time. Shouldn't be embarrassed about that. It's not an easy book to read, and it's not a book I would recommend to start. It's a book you should read after a while and after a solid understanding of objectivism. Daniel says, do you think it's possible there's enough I in our culture to make the M1 an M1 future instead of Peikoff's N2 future? Well, I mean, I think there's enough I in the culture still for us to limp along maybe in an M1 or a D1 kind of future. But it sure looks like people are attracted to D2, M2 types, and M1 is not that stable. Now, M1 buys us time to get the I's more solidly entrenched so we can establish an I culture, an integrated culture. I stands for integration. M stands for misintegration. D stands for disintegration. It really is. M1 has survived for far longer than I think even Ayn Rand or Leonard Peikoff thought it would survive. Let's say in the late 1970s, early 1980s. I think it's bought us time. How much more time can it bring us? I just don't know. I like how Scott appeals to authority constantly, which is a logical fallacy. I think we all know it's a logical fallacy, and that he commits that logical fallacy constantly when it's convenient, of course. When the authority doesn't agree with Scott, he doesn't commit the fallacy. He only commits it when the authority happens to agree with him. All right, Bash Bannigan, can you explain Rand was a strong proponent of property rights? However, in the Fountainhead, Roark blew up the building, which was not his property. Yes. By the way, thank you, David Usano. Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, Tazy, and thank you, Kenneth. Really appreciate it. Yes. I mean, the question there is, what is the property right, and was there an alternative path for Howard Roark to defend his property right? I mean, I think the perspective is, first of all, it's a novel. This isn't a recipe for reality. This isn't a recipe for what you should do in reality. But Howard Roark's view is that it was his property because he designed the building. It was stolen from him by the fact that Peter Keating broke the contract with him by redesigning the building. And that he didn't really have a way of using the courts in order to do it because he had no written agreement with Keating. He was willing and completely understood why he was being put on trial and defended himself on trial and made the case of why basically this was that he had a property right claim to this and that his only avenue for redressing that claim was to destroy it. I don't think Ayn Rand advocated that what he should have done in real life. It is a way for her to dramatize what artistic integrity means. It's a way for her to dramatize what breach of contract and the property right in the design actually means. It's a way for her to dramatize his integrity and his unwillingness to let his work be used in an evil, bad way. And, again, it's a book. It's a novel. It's not a manual to go out and do exactly what Howard Roark is. It's a cause for you to think about how does this apply in your life and in what ways would you express that kind of commitment to integrity. All right, I see there is ongoing continued debate about abortion. It bewilders me how anybody who respects individuals or individual rights or individualism can oppose abortion, and particularly, like Ayn Rand, I get that somebody can make an argument. I think they're wrong about abortion in the third trimester, but how you can make an abortion about the first few days, or how you can make an argument against abortion in the first trimester is beyond me. It really is. It's beyond science. It's beyond biology. It's beyond, and it's beyond any kind of proper conception of individual rights. And sad to see. But it is. People on my chat come from all kinds of perspectives. Okay. Let's see. All right, we are way off from our goal. This is the furthest we've been from our goal in a very long time, but we are going to end the show right there. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate those of you who did support the show. Appreciate all those who are listening. Thank you. If you'd like to support the show on a more regular basis without the super chat and without me bugging you, and for those of you who are not live anyway, then you can do so on YaronBookShow.com/support. You can do it on Patreon, on Subscribestar. A couple of people recently, added on Subscribestar and Patreon has seen definitely an uptick of subscribers. So hopefully we can get more people to subscribe on a regular monthly basis. You can do so at $2 a month, and you can do so at $500 a month, or anything in between. So please, if you get value from the show, express that value back as a trade by supporting the show on one of those platforms. Thanks, everybody. See you all tonight. Oh, tonight we've got Jason Crawford. We're going to talk about progress. We're going to talk about what progress requires, economic progress. We're going to talk about ideas, philosophy that require progress, but also just the mechanics of progress, some of the amazing stories of progress from the last 200 years. The history is fascinating around this. And kind of who are the intellectuals working on this. And I want to talk to him about something called the progress movement, which I think is one of the better manifestations of kind of one of the better non-objectivist movements out there, right? It's not primarily objectivist, but it is a movement that is having an impact and is promoting human progress as manifest in human life. So, yeah, I think it's exciting. I think the work he's doing with the Roots of Progress, which is his nonprofit think tank, is exciting. He's got a new CEO. He'll tell us about her, about the new CEO, and he'll tell us about what they're doing over there. So hopefully you will all join us. It's at 7 p.m. East Coast time tonight. And, of course, we will be back with another news update tomorrow morning. See you all then. Oh, Stephen, thank you. Stephen just kicked in $100, and then John has put in $10. So we're now only like $33 away from the goal. So somebody could even jump in even after I cut off with that $33, or we're fine. That is pretty close and pretty good. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, John. Thanks to everybody who supported the show. I really, really, really appreciate the support. I mean, really, it is you guys that make it possible for me to continue this on an everyday basis and devote the time to this. I couldn't do it without the financial support you guys provide.